Alright, so before we get into this review, I'm just gonna say two little things. So first and foremost, I'm changing the premise. So instead of giving the books a grade like 5 to 10 or whatever, I am gonna try and answer the question, should you buy this book? I think giving it a grade is a bit too subjective. Saying that feels kind of stupid because answering should you buy the book or should you read the book is kind of the same. But I feel like answering the question should you buy the book or should you read the book is kind of why you're listening or watching a review or whatever. So to me, let me see if I can move my hands a little bit better. So to me it just feels like the right thing. Alright, and the other thing is at the end of this video there will be a hint for the next review after this one, so stick around. Now, let's actually talk about this book, this big book here. So this is Empire of the Vampire. It is written by Jay Kristoff, and it was first published in September 2021. So first book that's kinda new when I review it. Wow. So it is the first book in a trilogy going so far by the same name, Empire of the Vampire. It's the only book in the trilogy so far. And as of February the 8th, it has a score of about 4.5 out of 5 on Goodreads. Jay Kristoff himself has about 8 Aurealis awards and an Ava. So clearly the man knows what he's doing. Alright, so let's talk about the cover. I already kinda talked about this cover in my book haul video, so check that one out. Link is in the description below, and I think there might be a card. I don't know, I'm not so good at all this stuff. But I just want to show off this cover. It is beautiful. I don't know how easy it is for you guys to see, so I'm just going to do like this, and hopefully that's going to work out. But the symbolism for the story, all the Christian symbols, and like this symbol here, which is this book's universe version of Christianity's answer for the cross, if that makes sense. And just, if you look at all the red specks here, it's kind of tough to see, but as you can see, it's all the blood, and adding all that glistening glow is just adding more to the current the theme in the book of the vampires being after blood, and even the main character Gabriel himself. We'll get more into that in the next section. I don't know if I'm keeping that tag or if I'm keeping this part here, but I'm keeping it in now. This section here will also kind of cover the prologue since it's so short, and I want to discuss the idea of hooking the reader. So if we go into the book and move on, they always start with these here, which is just small world building quotes. They don't necessarily mean a lot, but what I want to highlight is actually how the prologue here starts, and it goes, "Ask me not if God exists, but why he's such a prick." Because that's just such a harsh take on such a sensitive topic as religion. And then the rest of the prologue here, which is only this page, goes into the God's dilemma. Basically the question, if God is almighty and good, why does evil exist? Because if he's almighty and good, he shouldn't let evil exist. But since evil is there, it's because he can't remove it. If so, then he's not almighty. And if he can remove it but doesn't want to, then he's not good. Then there must be some evil in him. And it's kinda, here is the book itself acknowledges God does exist, but he's a prick. So then, in this book's case, the answer to the question would be, God is probably almighty, but he's not good. Now, let's move on to the story itself. Every story just start out with that quote, and then we get into the books. And I think the book is so fun, and I love our main character Gabriel, and I love the banter he has with Jean-Francois. I think setting the story as a discussion between those two is bold, it's interesting, it's unique, it's fun. The fictional religion we're talking about here, it's Christendom, let's be honest here, but for legal reasons it is kind of, I don't think there's any legal binding, but for obvious reason it's of course not Christianity, because no one in this book is shown to be redeemable in the eyes of a true Christian, or traditional Christian, or whatever you want to call it. So reading the book actually made me think of like Frost Software's game The Bloodborne, or not The Bloodborne, just Bloodborne, because it feels like a book version of it. Not as a, well, also the fact that everything is just gonna kill you and are super strong, but mainly just the feeling of despair and sadness and darkness and no, like, you can feel the dread. It is on every page. But even more, you can feel the hopelessness that's all around. Even when Gabriel talks about the order or anything good in his life, you kind of get this feeling that they think they can win, but you also get the feeling that they just don't want to get up. They just not get up, give up, of course. They want to show God that they are worthy of heaven, because in the Order San Bihan, all of them are offsprings of vampires, so they are believed to be, against the will of God. And the book is dark. Oh my God. You can feel the dread, but it's also funny, like really funny. Kristoff knows how dark his book is, so to balance it out so you don't just get sad, you have these parts with the banter between Francois and Gabriel, and it's just fun. And also a little detail the book has that's totally unnecessary in most cases is the artwork. I'm only going to show this one. This is a picture of Gabriel. The artwork all throughout this book is beautiful, and it's always tying into a story. It's not just added here for nothing. It ties into because Jean-Francois actually draws it while writing down the story of Gabriel. So, yeah. So far, the book is definitely worth a read, but we'll answer it in the end. So, yeah, stay tuned. Reading this section made me feel like Jean-Francois, mainly because I want the story of Gabriel in chronological order, because it's the most normal thing when you read a book is everything's like A to B to C to D, and then from time to time a time skip. This book is already weird because it goes like, oh yeah, present time, past time, present time, another past time. It keeps you in suspense. It keeps you in so much suspense going, and that's amazing. It's such well written because it doesn't feel jarring that you're not getting it in chronological order. And it feels like such a Gabriel scene to know, Gabriel thing to know that Jean-Francois really wants it in chronological order, that of course he's not going to give it in the correct order. And there's just more humor, more banter, more interjections in the story with that Gabriel has to explain all the minute little details, and it just annoys him, and you can feel Francois loves doing it. And we're told in the story, let me get back to the script here, that Gabriel used to be the biggest believer of God. So, and we're also told he has a wife and a daughter. So what made Gabriel go from the biggest believer to abandoning his faith? So, but my first thoughts so far, I was a bit skeptical. I mean, the start was super strong and the banter is great. The book got a quote from Robin Hood, somewhere in, I think it's on the back. Yeah, it is. A chilling new take on vampire lore and those who must battle that darkness. And I guess there's some, but not really on the vampire aspect. The vampires are very traditional. It's very much, stakes through the heart, silver, religious symbols, can cross rivers, all that stuff. But of course the San Bihan, I assume that's how pronounced, I don't speak French. Is it like... so yeah, the vampires actually reminds me of the Skyrim expansion of vampires, in kind of the same way the hierarchy is established. Like you have a head vampire and then under and under and under and under. That's funny. So yeah. Back to San Bihan. I'm getting used to this flip-flopping in time, and I really think that it's fun. Also, huge respect for Jay Kristoff for pulling this off, because you're telling a story in 3 different times. So yeah, that's a lot of work. And what's really impressive, I'm never in doubt what time this is going on in. Like, if I pick up a random page and I start reading, I will guarantee you I am not in doubt if I am in the present, let's call it middle past, or all the way back when Gabriel was a kid. That's really an incredible feat. Now, the actual story. So, what is it with writers and liking characters who likes books? Is it a self-insert thing or whatever? I mean, I don't mind. I don't personally mind. I love books myself. That's why I'm reviewing them. But it just seems quite often now that main characters also like books. So, also, I guess it makes sense that the quietness of the library that most of the section is kind of taking place in is gonna work, like the calmness is gonna work as an opposite to the hectic training he goes through Gabriel every day. So it kind of works to slow the pace down a little bit and let us breathe along with him, because we could just have fight training after fight training and him battling guys and going in depth with new ways to fight vampires and all that. But it would get a little boring in the long run. So, final thing I want to touch on is the romance between Astrid and Gabriel. So, I love the chemistry. It doesn't feel forced. It feels like they would be fun because they have amazing chemistry. The banter is fun, and I think Astrid is hilarious. I mean, all the characters are fun in their own way. I don't know, but I think the polar opposites that Gabriel and Astrid makes them seem like they would fit perfectly. So I don't know if that's gonna be like a love triangle with Chloe, because on one hand I can see the chemistry between Chloe and Astrid. On the other hand, I can also just see me looking too much into it. Nonetheless, no matter what way Kristoff goes, I'm open. I'm interested. I'm keen. Bring it. The fourth one in the area here, I don't know. Somewhere. I'm pretty close. Book 5, that's close enough. I don't want to touch too much about book 4 here in this book here, because it's a long book. As you can see, it's 800 pages and it's quite big. Some of the other books I've reviewed are 800 plus pages, but they're like this tall. And the font here is actually, they're quite dense books, and I like that. It's a fun book. So I'm not going to touch too much, but I do want to touch on the fact that I don't think it's a Christian symbol that prevents the vampires from hurting people, but the people's unwavering belief in God. And I do think that because it is a neat twist on the vampire mythos, like Robin Hood talks about in her review or her quote for the book. Because if it was like that, then why not just line the roads everywhere with Christian symbols or whatever, and all the houses are just cross-shaped and works as like everybody's private church. But it makes sense that, of course, that God has no power unless you believe in him. So I like that. Also, Dior was a girl? Damn. Had Dior been the main character, we would have had a dark YA book here. And that would be a typical YA thing to make Dior the main character, because she's supposed to be the... I don't want to get into that. She's supposed to be very important, and that would be a typical main character thing in a YA book here. But I then just find it funny that our main character isn't the one who's destined to save the world, but merely just the protector. I mean, we don't know if later installments in the franchise he's then gonna save the world, but so far in this book nothing makes me believe that he's gonna save the world. The Aaron and Baptiste being gay really shocked me. Spoiler, I don't know. Spoilers for all of this? I think it's a bit late. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of hints now when I look back, but I only assumed it was the great mood and spirit that Baptiste was bringing with him that made Aaron so happy. Now I know it was more than that. Is it relevant to the story? Actually, yes. I do believe it's relevant. I love when details like this are also relevant. Because it's used to grow Aaron and Baptiste, but it's also used to grow Gabriel. So we're like two people, we learn more about them, we expand the universe, but we also use it for character growth. 3 people. That's good writing. Because it can be seen as a test, since it is against the order to be gay. Also, now it kind of makes sense looking back that of course it kind of didn't come out of nowhere. So I will leave it like that. It's a character test, and I think Gabriel passed it with flying colors, but you can maybe read the book and see what that means. The fight against Laura was awesome. The ragtag team of random people from San Mijon made it a lot of fun. You may feel like they were going to lose at all times. I mean, we know Gabriel's not gonna die, but maybe he wouldn't win. We don't know. Luckily, no one important died. That sounded dark. The final thing I want to talk about is the confrontation between Gabriel and Seraph Talon, which was fun. Gabriel realized what was going on and just decided to confront Talon. And then being saved by Greyhand was a nice way of not making Gabriel so strong that he could defeat the Seraph, but still give us time to see how far Gabriel has come since the beginning of the book. Yeah, so far so good. You know, given the already quite long review, I am gonna be keeping the last section here short. Also, since it's the final and it's my favorite and I love it above anything else, it is absolutely beautifully written. It's perfect in every way, and I'm gonna try and find like some cool thing to end it on. No. So I'll only talk about one thing here. I want to talk about the story behind Gabriel's wife and daughter. That genuinely made me tear up. It wasn't that I didn't expect that, but it was just such an emotional way. Any normal man would have been broken and just given up on life. But Gabriel isn't normal, and he turned it around, using it for revenge. But that does explain a lot about his treatment of Dio. And I like how she calls him out for it, and I'm gonna leave it at that, because I think the final section needs to be read in its entirety without too many spoilers. What's left for me to say? I think Jay Kristoff has created a masterpiece, and any fan of fantasy should have this one on their TBR. It's dark, serious, but surprisingly fun and almost uplifting in some ways. It's weird to say that a book this dark that I can confidently compare to Bloodborne in the way it shows dread is also uplifting. And you keep reading about how this world was basically taken over by vampires and people dying everywhere. Hope seems to be gone, but it's not. Everywhere you go everywhere we go in this book, we see resilience and hope. Even Gabriel, for all he talks about the world being doomed, he's still fighting and helping people feeling hope. So, to answer the beginning question here, would I recommend this book? Yes. Is this one of my now all-time favorite book, if not all-time favorite book? Yes. Yeah. I have no more to say. I think you should read this book. It's genuinely, in my opinion, a modern masterpiece, and it needs to be talked about more. I don't know what to say more. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the preview. As we reached the end of the road, where a two-story wooden house that had certainly seen better days awaited us. Part of the first floor was dedicated to a retail space, marked by the decorated wooden sign that clung desperately to the wall. Book rentals. This was my home. The one and only bookstore in the entire spirit realm. I slid the glass door open and called out, "I'm home!" The glimmer flies scattered as the smell of incense hit my nose. I flung the door wide and stepped into the shop. The creak of the floorboards transported me to yet another world, one where I was home. The room wasn't big by any means, only around 16 square meters or so. The bookshelves covering the walls stood so tall you couldn't see the tops. Several old battle-scarred ladders leaned against the shelves. Glimmerfly bulbs dangled about the room, attempting to illuminate bookshelves that had gone amber with age. The bright spines of the books jammed on those shelves seemed to float in the dim lighting, almost as if they were hovering around the shop. Mysterious, abundant, within the spirit realm only bookstore. For one thing, the ceiling loomed far higher than seemed possible from the outside. First-time visitors often gawked at the height of the shelves. Obviously, this implied this shop had more than one floor, and while there were a stairwell in the main house, sometimes you could find yourself on the second floor without climbing a single step. Moreover, no matter how packed the house shelves became, we never ran out of space for more books. How did it all work? Well, if the shop owner knew, he certainly wasn't telling. Trade secret,